All right. So, um, welcome to the Sangha. This is Friday night call. Here's Thailand. It's Saturday morning. Unfortunately, this camera is not working, and probably I'll have to restart the computer to get it done. Um, but meanwhile, we are talking about karma and the fact that we've got choices about it, and that DJ was talking about how important the breath is. So, DJ, you take it from here.
Yeah, so I was having a conversation with some other folks on a different Buddhist server, and there was a little bit of like confusion. Somebody was like, "Oh, they recognized, oh, I've been doing it wrong, directing the breath, like this is incorrect, right?" And I said, "Well, it's not necessarily incorrect. It doesn't say anything against directing the breath, right?" But somebody else said, well, in the first two steps in the sutta, it says, depending on the translation, understanding, knowing the long breath and the short breath in the first two steps. But on the other steps, it does talk about he trains thus. I breathe in long, becoming aware of the whole body. I breathe out long, becoming aware of the whole body. I breathe in long, relaxing the body. I breathe out long, relaxing the body. At least that sort of,
Mm,
right then, that sort of
that's
interpretation.
exactly correct.
Yeah, yeah. So there's that training there too, right? So if we're looking at these steps in isolation and we're stuck on like that first step, we might get confused about don't do anything with the breath. But there is that intention when we do bring in those steps, like step 4, where it's like, yeah, we can, do that. We shall do this as a training, right? So there's that intentionality here, which, is sometimes missing. You can see too with the lack of right effort of like, don't do anything with the thoughts, don't judge the thoughts, but here it's like, no, we can have discernment, we can change the thoughts, we can say that's unwholesome, that's wholesome, and direct the thoughts away from the unwholesome and to the wholesome. The thoughts are not me, not mine. But when we have thoughts of judging, making a self that we judge for having these thoughts, it's like, no, they're just thoughts that arise and cease, right? But we can still steer them. And as we steer them, the mind becomes more calm, more serene, more unified and whole,
Hmm.
calm, collected. Yeah. So that's it. Yeah. But just on that topic of direction, yeah, with the breath and the mind coming together.
That's an important point. I see it often, and we can start off talking about it in by using the quote from Goenka: "When the mind wanders away from the breath, never mind, but start again to keep coming back." And that there's been a lot of, let us say, various teachings and various teachers in Western Buddhism, speaking English, that somehow or another, Western culture has now become Buddhism rather than Buddhism seeping in and changing Western culture. It's that Western culture has seeped into Buddhism and is making changes to it. And so it's a good point then to come back to the actual teachings according to the suttas. And the two suttas that I reference mostly is the Anapanasati Sutra number 118 and the Great 40, which is the exposition on the Eightfold Noble Path, which is 117. Funny like that the two of them are back to back, and that 117 is actually then very, very good instructions on what needs to be done. And then the next sutta, Anapanasati Sutta, is the exposition on how it should be done. Now, basically, Bhikkhu Buddhadasa points out many times uh, that the the model of Buddha is not necessarily or actually just an investigation model. It's not vipassana. It's not an insight practice. It's a change practice. You have to have the insights. You have to see what's going on in order to change. And we can do that in two different ways. One is in the here now, right now, we can see that this thought and this breath can be changed. And then on a longer scale, we can begin to understand what is dukkha and what is not dukkha. That in fact, that's the major insight. There is only one insight, and that is, what is this? Is this a wholesome thought or is this an unwholesome thought? What is this? Is this dukkha? Is this dissatisfaction? Or is it satisfaction? And if it's dissatisfaction, it can be changed. And one of the hints about that is the way that you mentioned the Anapanasati Sutta, DJ, is that the long breath and the short breath are to be understood, because we do long breath and short breath on a regular basis. The guy comes home from work, from his factory job, or maybe he's in a store and he's on his feet all day. Or maybe he's a garbage collector. Whatever the job is, he comes home and he sits down in his favorite easy chair and he lets out a long sigh. Finally, the day's work is done. All right? And so in that regard, we all know what that long breath is, that long out breath, a breath of relaxation. And this is to be understood, but the next part is to not just understand the breathing, but to actually train ourselves to investigate the body. This is, in fact, what the Goenka system is mainly all about, is that scanning method of understanding the body. And yet many people get caught up in the technique itself, and you got to do the technique right, versus what the intention of the technique is, and that is to know your body, to understand it, to wake it back up, that we haven't been paying attention to it very much. The sense of touch, the sense of the proprioceptic, the knowing the positions of the body, to know where things are, and to know it by the sensation. But mostly what we're looking for is the tension that is there, so that that can be relaxed, which is the step 4 of Anapanasati, to just relax the body. However, that takes training. The phrase is, thus one trains oneself. To train oneself to see the body, to know it, and thus one trains oneself to relax the body. That much of the stuff in the Anapanasati Sutra always has not just the point of that particular item. Some people call them steps, but when we use the word step, we get the idea that we take one step at a time. And the answer is no. These are like an items in a grab bag, and you put your hand in, and whatever you get a hold of first, that's what comes out. And this is then what needs to be trained, is whatever comes up. And so we have both breathing in and understanding the breath, and the training for each of these items. So the example then would be on item number 10 of the list, is gladdening the mind. And we gladden the mind while we're breathing in, and gladden the mind while we're breathing out. Thus, one trains oneself into gladdening the mind. Now, that's an interesting point about gladdening the mind, because there's two ways of looking at it. And the actual way, knowing the Pali, the word mind there is sita, or chitta, and what that actually means is the kind of the state of mind, to gladden our state of mind, to change our attitude. And most people would think that the gladdening the mind is just having happy thoughts. or let us say even not even having happy thoughts, just using happy words. And an example of that, in fact, my favorite is in the metta meditation, they have the phrase, may all beings be happy. Well, may all beings be happy is not a particularly gladdening thought. In fact, it's a longing thought. It means that we don't have the happiness in the world. Not only do the people, all beings, be happy, even me, because I'm not happy. And so the training then is to actually change that state of mind in the sense of, well, all those people are okay already. They're okay. Not a problem with them. I don't have to go out and fix them. They're not broken. What I need to do is brighten up my own mind. This is the real issue, is can we brighten our mind? Can we gladden the mind while we're relaxing the body? And I say while, I'm not talking about an instantaneous simultaneous, but let us say one after another as the mind moves. We're on the breath for a minute, and then we're on the thoughts for a minute, and then we're looking at the feelings for a moment, rather than a minute, but a moment. Because you know moments are flexible. Moments are not on the clock. So forgive me for using the word minute. In fact, I want to make sure that you understand that we can move around with all of these items on the list of Anapanasati, and we do it so that we're covering most of the bases. That while we're breathing in and then breathing out, we can recognize that this is different. The breath in is different than the breath out. Everything is in motion. And then we're touching on item number 13, which is anicca. Everything is moving. Everything is in flux, including the mind itself. In fact, Sigmund Freud talked about it as free association, but for many, many centuries within Buddhism, there has been the concept of monkey mind. Have you ever heard of that concept, DJ? Monkey mind.
Oh, yes.
Oh,
Monkey
sure.
mind.
What does that actually mean, monkey mind?
Yeah,
Means that it's
I
jumping all over the place,
yeah,
huh? Mm-hmm.
yeah, from branch to branch. Very, very indicative of a restless mind, right?
Mm-hmm.
Jumping from
The
branch to
restless
branch.
mind is the monkey mind. It jumps and it jumps and it jumps. Can you see that and then keep bringing it back? Let us use the example that the monkey mind is jumping all over the forest, and many of the trees in the forest are got thorns, they've got poisons and other things like that. But there is this one tree that if they keep coming back to this tree, then they're going to be safe. And so we need then to train the mind to stay out of the thorns, to stay out of the poisons, to stay out of all of that other stuff, and to stay in this tree, this one wholesome tree. And that's the way that we practice. This point then with Bhikkhu Buddhadasa, that the name of that article is Karma, the choice is yours. That's the name of it. Now, the way that Bhikkhu Buddhadasa is talking about the word karma is different than the way that most people think about it, in the sense that we talk about karma in the sense of our past actions influence the present, and then our present actions influence the future. But the perspective that Bhikkhu Buddhadasa is actually talking about here is our karma is actually our habits, what we are doing over and over and over again right now. And the reason that we keep doing it over and over and over again right now is because we're in the habit of doing it. We did it in the past, we're doing it now, and we'll do it in the future. So having a different perspective, the way that most people see karma is almost magical. That if I do a good deed, somehow or another, the karma machine in the sky is going to take note of that and give me a reward later. And then if I do a bad action, that the karma machine in the sky is going to note that, and then later he's going to bust me for it. And then people get the idea then that, oh, we can't get away with it. Even if we die, the karma machine is going to dig us back up just to kick us in the ass. And this is not the right way of looking at it. The right way of looking at it is that karma is what we're doing right now, the habits that we're doing in this moment. And we have a choice. Are we going to change those habits, or are we going to continue along with them? And we can change those habits only by seeing how things really are, to look at it the way that it actually is. And so this is the way that we can practice, is by seeing what's happening right here, right now, in the sense of, what's the body doing? Is the body content? Is it comfortable? Is it relaxed? The feelings, how do I feel right now? Do I feel tension in the chest? Do I feel anxious? Do I feel uptight? Do I feel content? Do I feel afraid? Or do I feel safe and secure? And so we look at the feelings with the intention of brightening them up and bringing about the feeling of safe, secure, comfortable, and satisfied. And then we look at the mind itself. What state of mind are we in? Is the mind dull? Is it bright? Is it shining? Is this the best mind, an exalted mind? Or is it a dull mind? Is it an ordinary mind? Or can we change the state of mind? Can we gladden it up? Can we intentionally be joyful? Can we change the state of mind that we're in? And the basic main change would be the change from being a victim into being a champion. Now, the victim's mind means that we are subject to all of the forces of the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune. We're a victim of our karma. We're a victim of our habits. We're a victim of our training. And we have to kind of put up with the way things are. But this is the attitude that we need to brighten up. In order to practice correctly and get the best benefit out of Anapanasati, is to gladden the mind, changing the attitude from being a victim into, I can handle this. Didn't matter what goes down. It's okay. I can do it. Not a problem in the world. And so it becomes a new attitude that we have, but we have to keep practicing this because the old karma will keep coming back. That's in fact one of the best values for the Sangha, and that's one of the reasons why I keep inviting people to come to these calls, is so that we can keep our mind for a little while focused on the Dhamma, keeping our mind focused on, I can change the way that I think. I can change my mind. I can change my attitude. I can change the body from being uptight into being relaxed. And so this is the way that we practice if we remember to practice. So in fact, that remembering to investigate. This is why it's actually called Anapanasati. It's not just breathing in and breathing out. It's to remember to breathe in long and to remember to breathe out long and to remember to see the body as it is and remember to relax the body, as well as all of the other steps of Anapanasati. And this correct practice of Anapanasati then changes all of the things about our body and our mind and our feelings. It's an entire wholeness. It brings us into a state of wholeness, into a state of unity, which is part of the Eightfold Noble Path. They call it Sama Area Samadhi. But within the context of Western Buddhism, that's been wrongly translated as a concentrated mind. And we're not looking for concentration, then in fact, if we are concentrated, we'll actually miss out on a lot of stuff. That what we're looking for is wholeness. We're looking for unity. We're looking for being able to handle whatever happens with the body, the feelings, and the mind in the sense of one by one as they occur. Whatever comes up, we can handle that because we're not being distracted by a mind that we would think would be called concentrated. So, when the kids are waking up crying, have a happy face. Do some Gucci Gucci goo. Have some fun with them, even if they're crying. If they're crying, they need nurturing. So nurture the kids, both the kids in the bed, the kids in the house, and the kids inside. That we often wake up and our kids inside the, the mind are crying. We want something. We're unsatisfied with things. Can we see that? Now, when the kids in the house are crying, we can hear them crying. But often when the kids inside the mind are crying, we're so used to it. That's our karma. That's our habits that we don't bother to do anything about it. And this is what the real practice of Anapanasati is to wake up to what the mind is doing, to wake up to what's happening with the body. Any tensions, any anxieties, anything that comes up, we can pay attention to it. That in fact, for myself, sometimes a little bit of niggle of anxiety will occur. And what I'm actually talking about is a kind of a tightness in the chest, or I can feel it in the body. I've got something on my mind, right? The laptop is broken and I got to fix it, that kind of stuff. And when I see that tension in the body, the thing to do is to actually see it. And then I can say, okay, I can take a long, deep breath. Everything is all right. There's no reason to have any tensions. There's no reason to have any problems. And within a couple of 3 breaths, that tension, that anxiety will melt right away. We can practice that. A lot of people don't know how much anxiety and tension that they carry in the body because they're not paying attention to the body. So we need to remember to practice. This is what the word sati actually means. And that it's translated, by the way, as the word mindfulness. But the real point is that we can't watch something, we can't be mindful of it if we don't remember to do that. And so the really important point about mindfulness is to wake up and actually look at what's going on. And if we look at what's going on, then we have a chance of changing. If we don't look at what's going on, then we're going to be stuck in that old habit. We're going to be stuck in the karma, the old habits, because we're not paying attention. So this is what the real practice is, and we have to keep doing it over and over and over again, which means that we need to be reminded. We can remind each other that we can talk about the Dhamma, have some friends, discuss the Dhamma, making sure that we keep one eye on the Dhamma. If we can keep the eye on the Dhamma, can continue to remember to look at what's going on, then this is a remarkable part of the practice. Basically, what we're talking about is being able to keep your eye on the Dhamma is like getting into the stream of the Dhamma. This is what the word sotapan actually means, is that we're constantly looking and reviewing and seeing what's going on so that we have a chance to change it. We have that choice. So, DJ, do you have any comments?
Any comments? You know what? I don't really have anything to add, but yeah, just wonderful to hear you, elaborate on that, and yeah, just following along, breathing along with it as you're talking and relaxing the body, becoming aware of the mind, and also, yeah, what you said about gladdening the mind and how that really connects with the samma sankappa, the right attitude, right? It's not merely like, yes, we're practicing with like directing the mind towards, uh, wholesome thoughts and what have you, but it's the attitude, right, that changes, that samma sankappa, uh,
Mm-hmm.
that brightens up, and that goes with that, hey, we can do this, which brings us down to, you know, working with the feelings of pity, working with those feelings. I like to refer to it like a successful joy, right? Like there's that success in it, that like, yes, with that, or the sukha, like an easy satisfaction, right? Like, yeah, this is
Mm.
easy, because it's not hard satisfaction in the sense of it's hard to get, right? We can be like, yeah, no, this is easy, because we recognize just coming back to the breath right here and now, just this is enough. Practicing the Dhamma, keeping the eye on the Dhamma, like you were saying, it's nice. It's nice to just keep coming back to this, coming back to reality, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's nice.
Right. That we have a reality of this, what's happening in this present moment, and then we have the reality of our karma, in the
Mhm.
sense of the reality of our habits, the things that we keep doing over and over and over again because we're in the habit of doing that, and it doesn't gain us much results. But when we start making changes for the better, we can see those results. That's one of the points that needs to be made about meditation, is that it's not just investigation, it's not just vipassana, and it's not just relaxation or samatha. That it's when the two are done together, you can have insight into needing to relax, and then you can relax. But we're not relaxing just the body. We're also relaxing the tension in the body. We're relaxing the tension in the feelings, relaxing the tension in the mind, and relaxing the tension that we add to reality. And when we stop making reality tense, then it too can relax. The Dhammanupassana, or the fourth stage of Anapanasati, is basically, the whole point of it is to let go, to drop all of our habits and just see things the way that they are, because the way things are actually are is quite marvelous. We have everything that we need. Everything is wonderful if we can see it that way. And we have to actually make that change, because we've been trained from our childhood to see things as broken and needing to be fixed. Like the first grader has to learn the ABCs. His mind is broken because he doesn't know the ABCs. His mind is broken because he doesn't know the numbers. His mind is broken because he doesn't know how to do math. Well, guess what? We don't need math. What we need is to stop thinking that the mind is broken because it doesn't have something, that it's already okay the way that it is. And you were mentioning before about going back to that point about when the mind wanders away from the breath, never mind, start again, because we actually judge the mind rather than just investigate it and then make a change. We'll take a few moments of pity party to say, oh, you should not have unwholesome thoughts. Oh, you're a bad dude. Because those kind of thoughts are actually the most unwholesome. When we're
Yeah.
criticizing ourselves for not matching up to the standards that we set for ourselves rather than nurturing ourselves. Like, for instance, when Michael, when his kids were crying, we have the idea, oh, kids should not cry. They should feel better. And then we go in and scold the kids because they are crying. Where, in fact, the right thing to do is to go nurture the child when he's crying. And so when we find ourselves crying on the inside, what we need to do is nurture ourselves. To say, yeah, everything is all right. Not a problem, not a worry. Everything is going to be all right. Whatever is hurting will stop hurting. Everything is okay. And yet we don't. We criticize ourselves. We fuss at ourselves. We want things to be better. We want things to be different. And we don't even understand that wanting things to be better is a hindrance. It's an obstruction for recognizing that things are already okay. Everything is already just fine. Whatever task you have, you can do it happily. And so,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say, yeah, a lot of the practice is coming back to, yeah, when the mind wanders away from the breath, rather than becoming sad and throwing a pity party because you forgot, become glad that you remembered.
Mm.
Recognize that you remembered that that's the moment that sati kicked in, and to keep that right effort and that sati going, as opposed to dropping it and going into a pity party. That's like the waking up, looking, and making that change. I liked working, yeah, with like, glad to see you. When the mind wanders away, glad to see you, or whatever it is. Even
Aha,
noticing
I
the
caught you.
feeling tones. Yeah, like even noticing like the feeling tones of liking, disliking, not knowing, becoming aware of that, and then having wise feeling, right? Where it's like, oh no, we can feel good about noticing these things, noticing these tensions. Oh, now we can relax them, right? And becoming glad that we see it as opposed to sad that we forgot, and really becoming skillful, like, yeah, at seeing that and transforming that and dealing with and overcoming hindrances in a healthy, and wholesome way. It's very liberating. Well, yeah, it's liberating,
That's
right?
it.
And so, yeah, that's
So
it.
here's a question for you then, using that frame. Uh, Liberating from what?
Dukkha,
Yeah,
dissatisfaction.
from the dissatisfaction that we just created for ourselves. Oh, the mind wandered away and I don't like it. That's the dukkha. And we can free ourselves from that by nurturing. Oh, the mind wandered away. I see that. Okay, never mind. Let's just come back to reality.
Yeah.
That in fact, this is one of the points that can be made is that most people are so hard on themselves that they think, in fact, thoughts of, this is hard. I can't do it. When the mind becomes obstructed, oh, poor me. I know the mind is obstructed, or maybe they don't even know the mind is obstructed. They're just feeling bad. And that the real point of coming into the Dhamma is when we get the idea that it does not matter how obstructed the mind has gotten, we can get out of it. We can make a change. We can come back to reality and see things the way that they are. Now, I'm referring to a passage out of Sutta number 48, the Kansambian Sutta, where the Buddha says that this is the first knowledge. The first real insight is that whatever way that my mind is obstructed or hindered, I can stop it. I can come out of it. I can see it for what it is and stop that and come back to reality and see the things the way that they really are. And then the Buddha says in that passage, this point of knowing that you can come back out of your hindrances is the first knowledge, and it's the first step on the path. It's the first knowledge. It is noble. It's a noble position, and that it is a position or a thought or a point of reference or an attitude that very, very few people have. Ordinary people think that they're a victim of their own mind as well as a victim of all of society. But the real point, the real change, moving into this first knowledge that you can change. You can come out of that. You don't have to be stuck with your karma. Now that's almost radical. It's almost radical to think that you can change your karma. Most people think that, oh, we're stuck into this law that if you do good things, you'll get good results, and if you do bad things, you'll get bad results. And that's the law of karma, like as if there was some magical machine in the sky, or maybe a god or whatever, that's keeping track of everything that you do. And then he's got some algorithm that weights various things and then comes up with a net result as to whether you're going to have a slight heaven or a bad heaven or a slight heaven or a wonderful heaven, not recognizing that at each moment we've got a choice. We don't have to live according to that karma. We can change it. What do you think about that, Dhammadas? You have a choice to live your life in your own karma or to come out of it.
I think it's wonderful.
Yeah. How about you, David?
Yeah, I've been practicing that now, so I do have a choice. I can live my own karma.
Mm-hmm. Or you can change it.
Yes.
That makes it yours is because you can change it.
Right.
That it's not outside yourself, that it's inside. And we have a choice. Are we going to live according to the old ways that we've been doing things, or are we going to do something new? Instead of feeling the way that we have been feeling, we can choose how we're going to feel. Again, that's almost radical. Almost everybody thinks that whatever the feeling is, that's who they are. We use language like I am angry, I'm frustrated, I'm sad. And the reality is that you are not those feelings. You are not angry. There is anger there. You've got a choice about whether to keep it or not. You are not the anger. You are not the frustration. You have a choice that those feelings don't own us, and most people don't even understand that. They think that they're out of control of their feelings. And the whole point of Anapanasati practice really is to take control, to make a choice, to take control of the body, to take control of the breathing, to take control of what the body is doing in its postures and positions, and then take control of relaxing it. We take control of the mind. We gladden the mind. We change the state of mind. We change the kind of thoughts that we're having. If we can do that, then can we not also change the way we feel? Instead of feeling the way that we do feel, we have a choice. We can feel the way we want to feel. And not only that, but we don't have to make a decision, oh, I want to feel this way, and then I have to live up to that standard forever. Oh, no. Every moment we have a choice. How do I want to feel right now? Do I want to feel safe and comfortable and satisfied and successful? Or do I want to feel tired? Do I want to feel energized? Whatever way that you feel, you have a choice about it. You can feel the way that you want to feel. So, with that, we also have a way of changing how we approach things, like the Dhammanupassana. We can see that everything is changing, everything is flux. We can see, in fact, that that process causes death. Things decay, they fall apart, they die. If they die, that's okay. Let them die. Turn it loose. We don't have to carry around a dead corpse of a baby like Kasikatama in the sutras. If something dies, let it die. Let it be buried. Throw it out. I had a good friend, and then he got sour on me. Okay, that's what is. Let that be. Maybe later he'll change his mind. That's up to him. But for me, just because he's down on me doesn't mean I'm going to be down on me. I have a choice. Isn't that marvelous? We've got a choice about the way that we feel. And we have that choice every moment. So, Michael, Clark, how are you feeling right now?
Wonderful.
Even on a bouncing bus.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
My head's banging against the ceiling and I'm having a great time.
So, Christopher, I haven't heard from you yet. How are you feeling? Don't see him. Christopher, are you there? Oh, well, never mind. How about you, Dhammadas? How you feeling?
I'm feeling great.
Sounds like it. Just passive, everything's all right. So I think that we can take a time now to finish this talk. Does anybody have any last things to say? David, how about you?
Yeah, I have a question. I think it could extend quite far though. But concentration, Western Buddhism translates samadhi as concentration.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and why are there big traditions in the East, like based on this sort of concentration where you get absorbed and you don't have awareness of much? There seems to be big traditions in Asia based on this practice.
Right. That practice actually is because people want something they don't have. They don't have the ability to feel like they're enlightened, for instance, and so they want some event or some magical thing to prove to them that they are enlightened, so in fact they can feel light. They want something.
Do you think that they get that eventually though?
Well, actually, if you're practicing in that way, you're building up a pattern, a habit, a karma of being dissatisfied and wanting something. You know, a lot of people I've heard, I've only met a few of them, but I hear that it's a widespread thing that people think if they meditate long enough and concentrate hard enough, then they will have a magical or a mystical experience like the development of magical powers or a visions of rebirth. And basically, what's really going on is that they're wanting something like having a mystical or magical experience. And so for some reason or another, then the idea of having a magical or mystical experience is somehow necessary and people want them. And by doing so, sometimes they create them. And then when they do, then later they want to create it again and they feel disappointed because they can't have the magical experience that they had because they wanted it so much. Now they're wanting it in a different way. But you can actually have very nice experiences through relaxation and talking to yourself into feeling really, really good. And then you do feel really good. So which is better, to actually train oneself into feeling the way that they want to, or working really hard to get an experience so that they'll feel good because they had the experience?
Well, for myself, I used to practice that sort of absorption meditation, and the experiences are unlike anything you can get without sitting down and being absorbed.
Mm-hmm. But in fact, there's actually stories about this. There was a back in the early 2000s, there was a famous kid called the Buddha Boy, and that he would sit in meditation for long periods of time, and he got bitten by cobras several times. Now the point of it is that why would someone sit and have that and get bitten by a cobra? Why doesn't he wake up to the fact that there's a cobra in the vicinity so that he can deal with the cobra wisely rather than just sitting there? And not only that, but generally cobras are, let us say, shy. And so he's got to be doing something. Maybe he is moving around. Maybe he sits down on the cobra, and that's why he gets bitten. One of the things, by the way, along that particular line is that when cowboys were sleeping out in the desert or in the wilderness on a travel, they would take their boots off at night. And then in the morning, one of the rituals that they would do is to take their boot one at a time and turn it upside down and shake it. Why? Because there may be a rattlesnake or a scorpion or something that's crawled into the boot at night. This is what we would call then mindfulness, to remember to check things out. And so sitting still for long periods of time actually has its own dangers, especially if you're out in the wild or if you're in a cave or something like that, because you're not paying attention. You're absorbed. That part of the training that Ajahn Po did with me had to do with him basically, I use the word sneaking right now. He didn't actually have the opinion of sneaking up on me. He just silently would walk up to me, behind me, and say something. And pretty soon I got the point is that what we really need to do is to wake up to our surroundings. Whatever is happening, one by one as they occur. If Ajahn Po is out in the yard, you need to know that he's out in the yard. If there's animals around, you need to know that they're around. That in fact, that's the problem with being absorbed in a meditation. This is in fact what the Zen stick is all about. You've heard about the Zen stick. You know, the Zen master goes through the meditation hall and he'll whack people on the shoulder with it. Who gets hit? Dhammadas, who gets hit with the Zen stick?
Everybody. Randomly, everybody.
Well, that
But
may
they
be
say for the ones who fall asleep, the ones who
well,
are not having correct posture.
how about those who don't know that the meditation master is behind them because they're too absorbed in meditation, and he walks right up behind them, and they don't make any movements or any gestures to let him know that they know that he's there? They're the ones who are going to be whacked. So it's not only those that are sleeping because they're out of it, it's because he will hit those who are in absorption because they're also out of it. This is the whole point about absorption is that it's not a wise position to be in. It's dangerous. Zen sticks and cobras and scorpions and all kinds of things exist out there, including Ajahn Pose. He's out there. Are you aware that he's out there? Or are you missing it? This is what the real Anapanasati practice is to be aware of what's happening. Be in the senses rather than being in our heads. And absorption is just being in some sort of mental vacation, not in reality at all. Does that answer your question, David?
Yeah, that's good. Thank you.
But yet, that's what a lot of people in Buddhism think that they should be doing. They should be getting themselves into a mystical state or a magical absorption or whatever like that, that's some sort of value. To where, in fact, the jhanas are actually being super sensitive. That, in fact, one of the reasons for having a state of either no perception or what they call neither perception or non-perception is because everything is then in consciousness. Everything is in reality rather than in a mental reality. That we spend a lot of our time in a mental reality. We see and think and see and think and see and think and feel and see and think and feel. If we would just see and not think so much and see and see and see, we're now more in reality. This is what is talked about in the sense of consciousness, is to be in reality, being in our senses, feel the body. An example of this is that it's quite well known that if you're walking down a city street and a robber comes up behind you, that the back of the neck, the hair on the back of the neck will stand up, just like on a cat. You've seen cats with the hair on the back of their neck will stand up. But cats normally know that, where humans can have that bodily reaction and the hair will stand up on the back of their neck and they're still not paying attention to it because they're absorbed in whatever they're thinking about. And so it's really, really hard to sneak up on people like Ajahn Po. Really hard to sneak up on him because he's aware of reality. He's not lost in thought or lost in absorption. So this is really the teaching of the Buddha, is to be here now, to be awake, to stop losing yourself into absorption states, mystical states, wanting things. And then there's another point, and that is that Goenka and other teachers recommend that if you have one of these magical or mystical experiences while you're in a meditation retreat, keep your mouth shut. Don't tell anybody about it. Why? Because if you do, then the story you tell will embed what your beliefs are. And so the third and fourth and fifth time you tell the story, you're telling the same story that you told the first time, and you don't actually remember the experience. You actually remember the story that you told about the experience. And so if you have an experience, don't tell anybody. Don't make up a story about it. Yeah, you saw this, that, and the other thing, but you don't have to tell anybody that you had a past life experience. You don't know that. You don't have to tell anybody that you had an experience, because the telling of the story of it makes it bigger and bigger and bigger. That's one of the things that I've heard about one of our good friends is that he wanted to verify that his experiences were correct. And so we went to this big teacher and that big teacher and this other big teacher, and he kept embellishing the story to where everybody was convinced that he was an arahat because he had experiences. And then later, he gets confronted and he has a thin skin about it. And so this is the problem with having these absorption experiences is that we make up stories about them, and then the experience and the story becomes more important than our practice. And the real practice is forget the stories. Come back to the reality of what's happening right now, not what happened in 2002. What happened in 2002 is so long ago. Why should we use that to define who we are today? And that's another one of the problems with these experiences. So stop having experiences that are peak and important and start having experiences one after another, after another, after another. Right here, right now, let's have an experience. Whoopee, this is a great experience. And it goes away. And then, whoopee, I have another great experience. This is the real teaching of the Buddha, is to have those experiences over and over and over and over again, because we remember to have them over and over and over again, rather than having an experience and then thinking it's special and wanting to have it again. So let's have an experience right now, because that's all we've got is right now. So let's go ahead and finish. Does anybody else have any questions or any comments? DJ, do you have something?
This is nice.
This is it. This is nice. How about you, Dhammadas? Everything is okay, huh? How about you, Michael?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. And Christopher, are you there? All right. So, everybody, thank you so much. This has been a delightful conversation. I really enjoy. We'll see you guys later.
See you, everyone.
See ya.
Bye-bye.